Welcome to episode 2 of Ready, Set, DR. I am so lucky to have my very good friend, Mario Armani, who's also a builder, broker owner of his own company, Armani Realty, and also a realtor. Mario, how are you, my man?
Buddy, I'm excited to be here. It's a pleasure to sit down with you, and I'm very honored that I got the opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. I have to have you because you know what? You have such a unique story. You're not only an owner of a brokerage, you're also a realtor, you're also a developer, and you're also my good friend. Like, that's a whole lot to manage.
I have a few hats in the closet.
Listen, your wife's a lucky woman. That's all I got to say.
That's what I keep telling her, but she doesn't believe me.
It is what it is. But
It's
I
okay.
would love the listeners to get an idea of your background, like where you started. Were you always in real estate? Like, how did you do all of this?
So I wasn't always in real estate. I've been in real estate now for 14 years. Prior to becoming an agent, I used to work for a marketing company where I used to help other real estate agents put together campaigns. So this was kind of when HGTV and all that was getting very popular and getting very big. Flipping homes was kind of like a new thing. It wasn't something common as it is right now. And I had this idea of becoming a real estate agent to be able to go ahead, buy my own homes. I've always loved design. I've always loved building. So I thought to myself, I'm going to get my license so I can flip homes and then sell the homes myself. So I wouldn't have to pay a realtor and I can do it myself. Once I started doing that, I realized that flipping homes was extremely, extremely difficult. One person knew that I was a realtor. So I kind of like started off not really intending to sell or trade. And then it just kind of took off from there to the point where I started making real money with it. And I said, you know what, if I applied myself full time and I gave this a real go, I could do something of myself. And here we are 14 years later.
Amazing. So, I mean, you obviously became a realtor, I guess I would say almost by accident, because you
Yes.
obviously wanted to become a flipper or a builder, right?
Yes.
But where did you find the passion in now selling to clients as opposed to buying the opportunities yourself?
I've always been the type of guy that I like to help people. So even going back to like my childhood days, I love to coach sports. Even when I was, let's say, playing volleyball or soccer, I would also be coaching the kids that were younger than me. So it's always been in my nature to help people. So this was kind of in my nature to go ahead and help people sell their home, buy their home, and basically help them make good decisions.
Amazing. And how old were you when you started again?
So I'm 37 now. So 14 years ago.
Already?
Yeah. Yes, 14 years ago.
You look like you're 20 years old.
Not really, buddy. I'm aging.
Aging like fine wine. No, it's good because I think your experience
Yes.
is very valuable, right? Like for someone like myself who's been in the industry for this is my 4th full year. All right. I've been fortunate to have people like yourself kind of show me the right direction on where I need to go and how to build my business, because I know based on our conversations and obviously your past client experiences, you care more about your clients and you use their money more than you care about the deal, which is really interesting because not a lot of realtors think like that, which is sad. But I just wanted to like hear your opinion on that and why you feel like that's so much more valuable than just the deal.
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head, and I'm really glad we've never really kind of talked about this, and I'm really glad that based on, let's say, what you see on social media or the few times that we've spoken, that you've kind of picked off that vibe, because that's exactly it. So for me, I feel that money comes and goes, but at the end of the day, the relationship that you have with a person will last forever. So I've always been the type of person that I want to go above and beyond to give this person a great experience, especially when it comes to real estate, because as you would know better than anybody else, to buy a property, it's very easy. But if you buy something that's very bad or not in your best interest, it'll be difficult to sell it. So I've always felt that I have to give people that little bit of extra attention that maybe other people wouldn't really care, because all they're thinking about is how much money are they going to get paid.
Yeah, and that's the problem I notice. Like, not all realtors. Like, I think a lot of the brokerage community that I tend to be around, they really, really care about their clients, not about the deal. Because at the end of the day, there's no deal if there's no clients and no trust. So for someone like yourself, who's obviously put the attention to detail on their clients, it obviously reaps the benefits.
Yes, and I also feel that it depends on the type of niche and the type of market that you're working in. I would agree with you 100% that if you're dealing, let's say, with a higher average sale, I do feel that those type of people are not doing transactions, let's say, on a yearly basis. It's a little bit more spread out. So I think that people that, let's say, are selling $3 million plus homes, I think that the attention of detail that they give their clients is a little bit far superior than, let's say, people that are selling houses that, let's say,
Mhm.
are in the $1 million range.
Yep.
And I don't think that's 100% accurate, because I guarantee you some of the listeners that, let's say, they sell $1 million properties are saying, well, I give just as much detail as those other people. But sometimes, you know what I mean? Those type of people are treated a little bit more differently. And I think that the people that are in that industry or that are in that niche could kind of vouch what I'm saying is correct, right?
Yeah, I agree completely. So I guess let's start with, you're obviously a broker owner.
Yes.
You have one gentleman that works underneath you?
Yes.
Perfect. So for someone who's starting, let's say someone who's starting out in the industry, where did you start getting your first initial clients, and how has that changed over the years?
So I've always been kind of that word of mouth realtor. I think that if I had to start right from day one, I would do things completely different than the way I did, because I never got into real estate with that intention of becoming a real estate agent. So I kind of got into the business for my own purposes. Whereas, let's say if I would go ahead and become a realtor now, the number one thing that I would do is, let's say I would try to find a mentor, try to find a team leader, and have that person groom me. And that this way I wouldn't have to go through all those hardships that I would have to go through myself and kind of take a lot longer to figure out, right? So with the gentleman that works for me, Adrian, there's so many mistakes that he's not going to have to commit, because I'm always there kind of saying, don't do this because of this reason, because if you do that, this is what's going to happen. So he's able to kind of fast track so much greater than I was. Like, I had to learn everything the hard way. And there's so many mistakes that I made, so many mistakes that I continue making, just because it's all part of experience, right?
I would completely agree. And this is one thing I always touch upon, especially when people ask me my experience in the industry, right? Although I've only been in it for, let's say, 4 years full time, the amount of experience I have is someone who's been in the industry for 15, 20, 30 years. And the reason I say that is because when I first started out, like you said, I worked with a mentor. Right. His name was Jerry Corinci at the time. And we're very, very close now. I call my real estate father because he's a little bit older than me, but he's wonderful. He's taught me everything I know about writing an offer, how to negotiate, how to deal with other agents. And now the gentleman I work with, Jordan Grossman, very close friend of mine. He's like family. I love him to death. Love his family. Cutest little daughter. We basically do every deal together. And it's good because he's an ultra luxury agent. Like, you talk about dealing with clients with billions of dollars, he's the man. And learning from someone like that, as well as being on every deal with him, the conversations are different.
1,000%.
And I wouldn't be in that room if I didn't get that opportunity, right? So I think it's very valuable to join a team and to learn from someone who's been there and trying to get to where they are, essentially.
Yeah, I think you've heard me say this before, but the way that you're doing things is the way that if I had to go back in time 14 years ago, I would be doing the same things that you're doing right now. I think that you're headed in an incredible direction. You're starting to learn the business, which is very important. A lot of the newer real estate agents, the only thing that they're focused on, what I've seen, and obviously now being the broker of record and the broker owner, I have real estate agents that want to come and work for me, right? So I get to interview them. So I get to see this myself. And they're interested in how many leads can I give them? And also, how much commission am I going to go ahead and take from their salary? That's the only two things that they're looking at. And I kind of think that is completely incorrect, because you should be thinking of learning the business, because if you don't know the business, what do you really have to offer the public?
You won't make sales if you don't know the business, period.
No.
Period. So like, in my opinion, if you're one of those individuals that count every dollar you spend, especially in their first 2, 3, 4 years of your career, I think you're doing things wrong. And not to say that, I'm better or you're better or whatever the case is. I just strongly believe that education is so important. And that's why I feel like the mentorship is such a pivotal role. Like, I looked up to Ryan Serhant.
Yes.
I've never personally met him. We've emailed back and forth maybe a handful of times, but he's not a direct mentor. But in my eyes, I look to him as one of my real estate coaches. So do you believe in real estate coaching?
1,000%. Even like top guys, people that are managing hedge funds, CEOs of companies, they have people that they talk to, people that coach them. And us at our position, why wouldn't we have somebody coaching us? So coincidentally, 2 years ago, I did have a coach. They helped me tremendously over the past year and a half. I did merge from that coach just because at the end of the day, I'm looking to change the direction of where I'm going. So I'm kind of going through like a period where I'm trying to figure out some things out, but I will be going ahead and trying to get another coach, because even though I'm on a great direction, I'd like to kind of go further if that's even possible.
You know what? Funny you say that, because remember we had a conversation this morning briefly about how reinvesting in your business is so pivotal.
Yes.
So this year, I had a coach a few years ago. This year I rejoined with my coach. So I'm with Richard Robbins, and my coach is Braden. He's unbelievable. So in the short period of time we've been working together, probably 2 months, I've noticed the difference not only in my business, but my mindset.
Yes.
And I feel like our business, as much as it's paperwork and dealing with clients, it's all mindset.
It is all mindset because we have to hold ourselves accountable. That's what it is.
Exactly.
And I think that anybody who's self-employed, the biggest problem that they have is holding themselves accountable. You have to tell yourself every morning, you have to get up at a certain time. You have to start work at a certain time. You have to do things at a certain time. We have the flexibility to say yes or no to things, right? So oftentimes we can choose to make improper decisions, but I think it's all about consistency. And when you have that coach, you're paying for that person to keep you consistent. That's why I feel that it also makes us better just by having a coach, just because they'll make sure that we're consistent.
I agree completely. So moving to, I guess, another area that I think you're amazing at, because your attention to detail is none like I've ever seen before. It's great.
That means a lot coming from you.
Listen, you walked into a house with me at Castlefield. I'll never forget.
Yes.
You literally pointed out every meticulous detail, and I didn't even have to say a single word to you. The minute I walked through that property with you, I'm like, okay, me and Mario, we're like twins.
I won a listing presentation literally 4 days ago, and the lady called me 2 days ago to say, Mario, you're going to get the listing. She goes, you want to know why you got the listing? And I said, no, please. I'd love to hear that feedback. She goes, you noticed all of the lint that I had in my vents.
Really?
So she's like, yeah, she goes, like the fact that you looked at those little things, she goes, it kind of blew my mind, because everybody else that came in here, they were kind of just going in and out. And you were telling me, you got to touch this, you got to fix this, you got to look at this. And these are all little things that really stood out. So it's all about the little things. I think it's very easy for everybody to go ahead and do those big things, but it's the little things that'll kind of give you that plus over everybody else.
So I think you take a very similar approach to, Aaron Kerman, one of the biggest LA realtors. So what he does, he goes in there very blunt. He'll say like, listen, this looks terrible here. This needs to be done. Your walls need to be painted.
I'm not that blunt though.
No, you're not that blunt. I think you're much more respectful, but that's why he gets a lot of massive deals, because people are like, you're talking to me like this and I'm worth billions. You're getting my listing, because if you're doing this to me, you're doing this to other buyers that come in, and you're pushing them in the direction to put in an offer.
It's a blessing and a curse to be so detailed and so honest. And on a yearly basis, I do lose out a handful of deals just for the simple reason that I tell people this is the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't sell, or you shouldn't buy this. And people really respect you for it. So the way that I always thought of it is, if you buy today, tomorrow, or the next day, as long as you're buying with me, it doesn't really matter. I don't need to put a gun to your head for you to make a decision, right? So overall, it's just, you let people do their own thing. You give them the best information, you give them the knowledge, and that's all you can do. You give them the tools.
I know you're going to start doing building, and for I guess another side of your career, and another part.
Hobby business.
Hobby business.
Yeah.
Are you going to be building for yourself? Are you going to be building for clients? Like, how are you going to be entering that? Because I could imagine the attention to detail in that property.
So I've already consulted on many properties with different people, already invested with some other projects. So this year specifically, I'm going to be building my first property from the ground up, completely from top to bottom. And I'm also consulting on another property, a 5,000 square foot house at Yonge and Shepherd. Property is going to be beautiful.
Do you need a real estate agent to sell it, or what?
We do. We can co-list it.
I would love that.
Okay, no problem. We can figure something out. It's going to be a beautiful place, and this is going to require a lot of attention. Like a place is going to have an elevator. Like, it's just going to be like, everything's going to have to be on point, because the buyer in that neighborhood is not going to want to purchase a home of this price range without everything being the way that it needs to be.
I agree completely. So when you go through a property, I notice you don't have a normal realtor eye. You don't just walk in and look at the finishes. You look at the little things. Like, I noticed the venting on the floors you noticed, which is like, I don't even know how you noticed that, but it was very impressive. What do you look for when you're going for, I guess, for also for people who are listening that are looking to buy new construction or are looking to build and want to qualify builders, what would you recommend them looking at?
So that's an amazing question, Dorian. One of the most important things that I always look at is what are the trends in the neighborhood? Who are the demographic of buyers? Certain demographics like certain finishes. They like certain floor plans, and that's what you have to look at. So this particular home that we're building at Yonge and Shepherd, it's the type of home that there is a lot of Arabic buyers. There's a lot of Oriental buyers. So those type of buyers, they require specific things in their home, specific finishes. They like more modern finishes. So you can't really go too much on the transitional side. So we had to adjust everything because this gentleman coincidentally purchased a home with drawings. We took the drawings apart, took the layout apart. We basically redesigned everything from scratch just because if we would have done things the way that they were, they wouldn't have gotten the result that they're looking for come sale time.
Got it. So those are like the let's say the early stages.
Yes.
Now walking through a completed home. Let's say you're my buyer.
Yes.
And I want to bring you through a bunch of different homes that, let's say 4 or 5 builders have built.
Yes. What
would you point out to your buyers?
I think the track record of the builder is extremely important.
Okay.
Also, it has to do with the home could look good now, but let's say like anything that's man-made, there could be deficiencies, whether it's in a year, 2 years, 3 years. Is that builder going to go ahead and come back and fix those things should a problem arise? So I think that, like, let's say if I was a buyer, I would make sure that my realtor did their research on who the builder was to make sure that whoever I was buying, they were going to vouch for their product.
Got it. So you want that hands-on approach all the time, consistency.
Yes.
So I guess you want a builder that has a bit of a rapport, so it's been around for 5, 10, 15 years, if not longer.
Yes. And the problem is that I find that a lot of buyers, they don't want to pay for that. But there's a cost. There's a cost to anything. If you're going to be using a good realtor, there's a cost. A good doctor, there's a cost. There's always a cost. So if you don't want to go through the headache, you're going to have to pay that cost. If you don't mind the headache, you can go with a builder that's less experienced. However, you're going to potentially have to deal with some issues in the short and long term.
So when you guys are looking to build, there's obviously must-haves in every home.
Yes.
What are 3 things that you recommend every new construction should have for resale and then for end users?
Number 1 is layout. Floor plan is absolutely everything. If the home does not have a good floor plan, finishes can be changed, but the floor plan usually cannot.
Got it.
So the number 1 thing that we spend a lot of time is the floor plan. The secondary thing that we kind of look at, the finishes is something that could be changed even weeks before you're doing the finishing. So the floor plan is number 1. Also the front exterior, the facade.
Yes.
That's something that stays with the house practically forever. So depending on how timeless you make your house, it's a problem. So I'll give you an example. The home that I'm going to be building for myself, I originally designed the home 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years later, I decided to go ahead and change the entire front facade of the house because my taste and let's say how everything was kind of going, it changed also. So we changed the front facade of the house to kind of keep up with what's happening in today's market and also in tomorrow's market.
Got it. Okay. So is there any specialty rooms like a movie theater you recommend, a gym?
Well, right now, due to COVID, I think that the buyers are looking at things in a much different light.
Yes.
Outdoor spaces have become absolutely massive. Spaces for gyms, spaces for home offices have become very, very big. So in this particular Yonge and Shepherd house, we decided to make one of the rooms upstairs, which was going to be kind of like a part of an open area. We decided to close it and make it kind of like an office/den.
Oh, cool.
And the way that we're going to go ahead and stage it afterwards come sale times, we're going to stage it as such. So now when a person comes in there, they're going to say, yeah, you know what? We have our living space, kitchen, family room, all that. But we also have this office should we need an office, or let's say the parents can use it for like a little study area for their kids. It gives us that future potential saleability.
I agree. I think when you're a builder, you're not looking at today. You're looking at the future. And I think that's very valuable, especially when you're in a position where you're building something from scratch and a client that's come in, they're not changing anything. They don't want to. They want to buy a brand new house for a reason.
Yes.
So a lot of the times, you also touched on a point that I really want to speak about, which is staging. When you're building your brand new home, please, please, please do not sell the house empty.
1,000%.
Just don't. You're not showcasing any rooms to their max potential. Sure, if you want to just stage the master bedroom and not the secondary, third bedrooms, I'm okay with that. But if you're going to walk in there and it's completely vacant, I think you're leaving thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table.
I couldn't agree more, Dorian. At the end of the day, people always have a difficulty imagining themselves in the space. As soon as you come in there and you create an environment, you create an atmosphere for them, that sexy vibe, you know what I mean? Like that's what really will sell your property, especially if you're looking to get maximum dollar. It goes a long way staging without a doubt. Now, why don't agents do it?
Yeah.
Because they have to pay.
You hit the nail on the head. I think they count dollars too much.
They're counting dollars, and it goes back to costs. If the seller is paying the real estate agent accordingly, the real estate agent will have the budget to go ahead and do the staging. But if they don't, then unfortunately the agent can also take it from their end to go ahead and pay for it. So it goes back to what I was saying about cost. There's a cost to go ahead and hire a professional.
Well, of course. And I think this brings us to our next point, which is marketing. I got to be honest, I'm a stickler for marketing. I absolutely love the way you market. And it's not only because you showcase the property very, very well, like your images are always amazing, they're hit at the right angle, but it's also because the way you market yourself, you present yourself in a different light. You're not just, I'm a real estate agent, that's it. You show you're a family man, you love physical activity, you ride your bike, I know that. That's why I got a Peloton because of you. So thank you.
So I made you spend $4,000. Huh?
How about this? You might as well just take the money because that's what you just did.
Okay.
And then you love fashion.
Sure.
So I love to see how you market yourself like that, especially on social, because you become relatable, right? Okay. So I just wanted to give you kudos for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Is that something you do intentional, or is this just like, you have it as something that just happens naturally?
I love the question. I just post what I am. That's it.
Got it.
And I just want people to see that I'm a normal guy, just like they're normal people.
Above average looking, but
I'm trying to keep up to you. That's why.
No.
But no, it's just that I'm an average guy who's selling real estate, and I'm just really humbled by everybody's support. Like, I don't have 100,000 followers or anything on Instagram. I have like 5,500 followers. That is mind-boggling to me. Like the fact that like 5,500 people are like taking a look at what I do on a day-to-day basis is pretty incredible.
Of course.
And yeah, it's just that, you know what I mean? It's just, I'm a regular guy, and I'm glad that I actually showcase that and people see that.
You do. And I think it's very important because like let's say I wasn't a realtor, I was looking for a realtor. I'm not going for a realtor that just throws up a million pictures on Instagram. Like I want to connect. I want to be a friend. So when I pick up the phone and say, hey, it's time to shop, I don't feel pressure that you only want the sale. I want to know that, okay, we're going to hang out, we're going to have a beer, we're going to look. Like if it takes 1 month, 2 months, or a year, I know that this is a real relationship and a friendship. It's not just a transactional.
See, it's so great that you mentioned like whether it takes this much time, and you even mentioned the year, right? So like, again, it's awesome to see your mindset, like being 4 years into the business. Like I've said it from day one, I'm like, you're going to be like, I know for a fact that like 10, 15 years down the road, you're going to be like a monster, man, because you already have that mindset right at an early age, right? And at the end of the day, what people don't realize is when they work with an agent, it's not like, okay, the agent's sending me some listings and then all of a sudden, they're going to sell me a house and that's it. Like you're potentially talking to that realtor for even longer than a year, right? By the time you start talking to them to the second that they get their keys and the transaction's more or less done. And it's like you said, I'm pretty sure that you're like me. You keep in touch with your clients after the transaction is done. You become friends with them, right? So they become a part of your life.
Well, that's what it is. Like I know everyone preaches on, I always have to keep my clients in mind, keep your clients in mind. I'm like, no, guys, like if they're your friends, you don't need to keep them in mind. They're already there.
Yes.
All you have to do is just talk to them. Like what I started to integrate this year was video marketing a lot more. So not so much on Instagram, but more towards the email. So I don't really send emails anymore. I send videos.
Yes.
And I noticed that it's become more personal, and they love it because they're like, even sometimes I record myself in the car.
Sure.
And I'm like, this is amazing. I'm able to showcase my personality and I get to touch personal. So I'll say, hey, how's Jimmy doing? I saw your dog's growing up so fast, like little things. And I think that little personal touch just makes you from a realtor, normal transactional realtor, to someone on a bus stop, to a very good friend who you're getting invited to weddings, to bar mitzvahs, to everything.
Well, that's exactly what it is, right? It's just that personal touch. And going back to my motto and my slogan of my brokerage, attention to detail is everything. It's those little details, you know what I mean, that I feel make you stand out.
I agree. So, is that in all aspects of your life? Because I know you love your hobbies, which I would love to know. Number one, what are your top 2 hobbies and how did you get started in them?
So my number one hobby now, as you already know,
Oh,
is
yeah.
cycling.
That I know.
And it's just because I have a sickness that I can't stop working. I'm honestly a workaholic. If I'm at home, I have to be doing something, whether it's doing something with my house or my family or my job, but I can never not be doing anything. And I feel that when I'm cycling, I just put my headphones on. It's the only time I don't even like pay attention to the phone or my email, whatever it is. And I'm just free for those 2-3 hours that I'm on the road. I'm just free. And it's like, I'm clocked out. So that's one of my main hobbies. And my second hobby is just going to the gym and working out, just because, again, it's kind of that like me time where I just kind of get to unwind and just tune out.
Do you feel that because you have those hobbies, you actually perform better in business?
1,000%. 1,000%. So an athlete, when they, let's say, a football player, in order for them to get better, they have to train. I also feel that you should, as a professional, and you kind of see like these like CEOs a lot of the times, like these top guys, you know what I mean? They're doing things to perform, because these are guys that they're not working 7-8 hours of the day. They're probably working 14, 15, 16 hours a day. Minimum. So your body cannot tolerate that if you're not in prime shape. So that's kind of the way that I feel about it, especially now getting a little bit older. I'm not old yet, but I'm getting there. In order for me to continue what I do right now, let's say at 45, if I'm not taking care of myself now at 37, I'm not going to be able to perform that way at 45, because my brain's not going to be there. So I got to keep up, just so when I'm that age, I'm running at optimum speed.
Well, I think that makes sense, because I noticed over during COVID, for example, I'm not going to lie to you, I think my fitness has really gone down a little bit, just because there's no gym, and I'm a big gym guy, and obviously we've been in the winter now for a few months, and I'm not a runner. I don't go outside. So I got the Peloton, and ever since I got the Peloton, it became like a switch in my head. You start working out, you start eating better, you start drinking more water, you start paying attention more to like focusing on work.
Sure.
I feel like when you're working your mind and your body, your work just blows up, which is good. But I didn't realize that correlation until COVID hit.
Yeah.
When that was really put to test, because you weren't able to work out for months.
So I was always a big gym guy, avid workout guy ever since I was like 17 years old. And I got to the point from 17 to 21, like I was at the gym 6-7 days a week. And it was a big part of my life. From 21 all the way till I would say 29, I stopped training. I would only play soccer, which it's not enough. Your body goes through changes, and just you're not where you want to be. From the second that I started working out again, like you said, my business changed. So I was doing okay, but once I started working out again, I kind of had that mindset of accountability, consistency, and those things, like from something as silly as working out, translating them and transferring them into your business, it makes a massive difference, because I find in what we do, consistency is key. If you're not consistent with anything, you're just not going to get ahead.
Consistency is everything in life in general.
Yes.
So with that being said, I want to end off every podcast with a few things. One, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd give 20-year-old Armani?
Just be patient.
Be patient.
Just be patient, because I work at a very fast speed, and kind of sometimes I would make myself feel like I wasn't doing what was needed, or I wasn't doing enough, when in reality I was doing more than enough. And it's just my own self beating myself down, and I would get depressed because I wasn't where I wanted to be. But in reality, I was more than well on pace to being where I wanted to be. So I would tell myself to be patient.
I love that. And I'm sure you relay that to your family, which is amazing. They hear it straight from you. Where can all the listeners find you? Because your social's amazing. They have to follow you. Armani Realty.ca and ArmaniSells.com. You can go on Instagram, check me out there. I'm very responsive with my DMs. So if anybody has any questions, shoot me a DM and I'll be happy to help. Guys, he's wonderful. He's a very, very good friend of mine. I adore him. He's amazing. He's going to be around my life for at least the next 65 years.
You promised you were inviting me to your wedding.
No. It's on this podcast. Okay. You're invited to my wedding. Okay, done. All right, brother. I'm going to keep this recording. I'm going to send you a copy. Don't worry. Perfect. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Mario, always a pleasure. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Really appreciate for having me on. My pleasure. Have a great day. You too, buddy. Thanks.